Today we're going to go through an install of the Auxbeam 6-gang switch panel in the 2006 Toyota Tundra. It's a pretty cost-effective option for switching on and off the lights and different accessories outside of your truck from inside of your cab. Coming up.
A bad day.
Yeah! Hey, I'm Drew and this is Evergreen Overland. On this channel we do reviews on camping and overland gear, we hone our outdoor cooking skills and techniques, and we showcase 4x4 and off-road vehicle modifications like the one we're going to talk about today. For a while I've been mulling over the different options I had for some sort of switch system to actuate turning on and off different lights and maybe lockers eventually and all sorts of different components that I might inevitably have installed on the truck. There's some really awesome companies, higher end options out there like S-Pod and Switch Pros who make, really nice units that are just bulletproof. I definitely thought about going that route. Hey, and if you have the money and it makes sense for you, I wouldn't fault you for spending the money. But in this instance, I decided to go with a little bit of a bargain option, a Chinese knockoff version of those that I found on Amazon that seems to have pretty good reviews. This thing cost about 150 bucks, and this is a 6-panel switch. I think for another 10 bucks, you can get an 8-panel switch from this exact company, Auxbeam. And I just went with 6 because I kind of did the math on what I want to use it for, and I was more worried about it being a small footprint on the inside of the cab than I was needing to expand if I needed to add something later down the road. Now, if you're savvy enough electrically, you can definitely make a really inexpensive switch panel setup similar to what this is going to achieve by just rocker panels and different relays and switches and fuse blocks and all that kind of stuff. Although I think I can handle creating a system like that, this is a nice kind of intermediate option for the person who doesn't really want to do that much of a DIY, but also might not have it in the cards to spend the $600, $700, $800 on the more advanced systems out there. Let's go ahead and first take a look at what's in the box, and then we'll spend some time throwing this thing in the rig. Let's do a quick unboxing. This is the box it comes in, the Auxbeam 6-gang switch panel. Open it up, you have your instruction manual here with everything that the box comes with. You have your 50-piece little selection stickers that you can put on your actual panel itself to tell you if you're switching on amber or fog lights or winch or air controls or whatnot, so that's kind of cool. And these are reusable. I guess you can peel them off and restick them. I don't know how much I believe that is a reality, but you have your little panel itself that gets mounted in the vehicle. A couple different mounting options. This is a 3M backing plate sticker that you can mount to this and then just mount this thing to a flat surface. This is really not that much weight. And it also has this secondary bracket option where you attach this to your switch panel here, and this gets bolted in to wherever you want it to, and then you can adjust your viewing angle or positioning of this by just loosening these hex bolts here and tightening them down. You have a variety of your different fuses for your circuit panel here. For an inline circuit breaker, I believe this would be for your ACC to splice into an always on for the display lights for this thing. When the truck fires up, you'll be able to, this will fire up the display lights with that as well. This is just a little pack of bolts and stuff that comes for mounting with the bracket. And then you have your circuit panel box here with all your different relays and fuses. So that's kind of cool. They give you an extra set of fuses. That's awesome. Then the only other thing in this box, aside from a stack of skinny little zip ties, is your cable pre-done wire loom basically, which is going to go from your connection point here at the switch panel itself on the inside of the cab to your switch panel box underneath the hood right here. And yeah, I don't know how long this is. I'll get a full length on this and throw it up on the screen somewhere up here right now. Pretty much it. All right, taking a little time to look at the fuse panel, how it's laid out, where your outlets for your accessories are going to be coming out of this thing, how it's mounted, all that kind of stuff. I come across a couple of issues with this thing so far. One, it would be nice if the mounting bracket was maybe designed in a way where it could be reversible, so it could be mounted so that the cords can either come from the right or from the left. This way you're kind of stuck with coming from the left of whatever surface you mount it up against. Secondly, the power cable that goes to your positive battery terminal is really short. I mean, that thing's probably only like 14 inches. Let's check that. Yeah, basically like 14.5 inches from where it exits here to the center of this eyelet. And that doesn't give you a lot of room to move around on where this thing can mount. Right now on this side, I was thinking of here But the problem I have with that is it kind of covers up the grommet that I'm going to poke through the firewall to run the cable to the inside and all that kind of stuff. And then it also makes it so that either way, even if I found a place over here, I'm gonna have to extend this primary line going to the positive terminal. Feeling inside the split loom here, I feel there's, 3 or 4, maybe more separate wires going to this eyelet. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to splice all that into one eyelet. That shouldn't be too difficult. Where I'm actually gonna put this thing, I'll show you. All right, so although I'd love to keep all my electrical stuff over on that side with the battery, I've got a ton of room on this side, so I think I'm gonna be putting this right about there. That'll make it so that all my wires are actually running backwards away from it, which will be nice for all my components being able to run to the firewall and then disperse throughout the vehicle where they go to different lights and accessories. And it'll give it so that when I splice in the new extended positive cable here, it can run across the back over to the positive terminal. I think my next step is going to be figuring out exactly where the mounting holes are going to go from this and drilling it out, and then taking this and kind of dissecting what we are looking at with the positive wires that I'm going to have to extend. See that? Now that I have both the mounting holes drilled out, nut certs inserted, ready to go, I can mount this thing up. Next step is going to be taking a look at the wiring loom and figuring out how to lengthen this wire. All right, I know I've got some lugs and connectors and such around here somewhere, but I'm going to need to find them later. I'm going to go ahead and dive into this. Take off this outer shrink wrap first. And I should say here, if you're not comfortable doing this, pay somebody to do it. I don't want to be responsible for burning your truck down. I don't want to be responsible for burning my truck down. Well, rather than one big wire coming out of here, it's like 6 different ones coming out and going to a single crimped lug nut here. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to extend all of those. I don't know if the best way would be to extend each one individually and then connect them at the source, or connect them to a single line and run that over. Well, I think I figured out what I'm going to do. So I've got some different connectors. You shove one wire in this way, one wire that way, and crimp those down, and you can solder it if you choose to. I am going to clump these 6 wires together in 2 sets of 3. They fit in there pretty well. Crimp that down with my big old crimping tool, solder it in there. And then out the other side of that, I will have my large gauge wire coming out this way towards the battery terminal. And I'm just going to do that in 2 sets of wires just to help spread the load more over, thicker wire overall. So then I think those 2 8-gauge wires will be going from this point around the back of the engine bay, where I already have a lot of my wiring loom run. And they're going to go into some sort of lug nut that I'm going to crimp and solder and throw that on the positive terminal. There we have it. I have spliced these 6 wires into these 2, I think it's 8 gauge like I keep saying. I have plenty of cable to get me to the other side of the engine bay. At this point, I think mount it up in the engine bay where it's gonna live, run these wires over, figure out my lug nut, pretty much just leave that there ready to be attached when the time comes. Just gonna trim these so that I can throw my wire lug and hook in right there. I'm happy with how that turned out. For the most part, I feel pretty good about that connection with everything, and I'll just tuck this away until I get the rest of the system wired up. Next, I'm going to go over to the mount over there, and I'm actually going to loosen the right side bolt and tuck the ground wire in right there to come in contact with the chassis to ground the whole system out properly. And then I'm going to go ahead and poke a hole in the rubber boot that's between the firewall and start running cables and deciding where I'm going to be mounting the head unit. So basically what I need to send through the firewall little grommet here is going to be this cord that connects here, and that's going to go to the back of the head unit display, and then the ACC cord. Where I'm sending this through, this grommet right here, you already see some of the wiring loom through the firewall this way. It's got that little nipple on the right, and that pretty dang close to the same diameter as this guy is. So I'm going to clip that off rather than worry about poking a hole like I've done before. Poking a hole, then you got to just force it through. This I'm still going to have to force through, but I think I'll have a little bit easier time So I've got my lead wire to help me pull through. Got it basically taped on there really good so it's as smooth as possible. Glad I stopped. That definitely would have ripped this head off if I had just forced it. So okay, I'm gonna do the same thing, just a little bit more tedious. Gonna have to spread that hard enough to get this in, then it should be okay. Victory! I got my pre-wired loom through the firewall there. I've got the section that's connected to the fuse block with the relays and everything here. It's keyed, so it can only really go in one way. There's little arrows even to help you. There's a little rubber grommet there to help with the waterproof seal. So I'm going to connect those two bad boys together. Pretty much done under the hood, other than making the final connection. I'm going to head on the inside, figure out where I'm going to mount the actual control panel itself, and getting close to the home stretch of this thing. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about where I'm going to install this bad boy. So I've already attached the backing plate little bracket to the back of it here, just with the two of the longer machine screws that are in the kit. And then this guy just gets put on here like this, and then you can, you know, mount that up wherever it makes sense, drilling or not drilling, what have you, and then it'll swivel like we kind of already talked about before. My initial place that I was thinking about putting this is this has a little change area right here that's really just wasted space. It doesn't do anything. Pretty dang good. I like that. It's within reach, you know, it's not out of reach whatsoever. That would be a pretty good spot, but I would have to drill through there to run the cords. All of that to say, I was just looking at this and I came up with something that I think is actually going to be pretty cool. I'm thinking that if I take out my ashtray, which I don't use, that this guy is going to fit in that area really well, and we're going to give that a shot. I'm going to drill a couple more holes in this, and I think we have ourselves the ticket. Boom. Plug this in. That looks pretty damn slick right there. All right, starting to get things pretty well buttoned up here. I have my cord run all the way underneath the dash. This will get plugged into a location that gets power once the key is on, but stays off when the key is off. And this just uses a piggyback fuse. You wire that end, crimp that down onto your ACC power coming from the fuse block under the hood, and then this gets plugged into an existing fuse spot that I was talking about, and then you just throw the fuse that was in that location right there. All right, I got this thing plugged into a cigarette lighter fuse. Put the key in, turn it on. There you have it. So the way this thing should work is that it auto dims. We'll see how that works. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then what happens if I press off? So I can turn on whatever ones I want, and then I can turn them all off and then turn them all on, and it has a memory. A little bit of a sneak peek as to what's coming up next on this guy. We're going to be installing an amber light. We're going to be installing a rear backup selectable bumper light, some floodlights, and at some point in the future, we'll be installing some underglow. And then, yeah, we'll see what comes after that. So for the time, I'll just put some of these black covers in the other two spots. Pretty slick. Sweet. Well, all in all, that was a pretty straightforward install. I definitely like the way it turned out. We'll see how I end up liking the green underglow to this thing and how well the automatic dimming feature works. Next up, we'll probably be taking a look at mounting a couple of different styles of lights. Those will be good. That's what this is going to get powered to. And then I'll still have 2 additional locations, actually 3. I'm not sure I'm going to do rock lights or underglow lights or anything like that, but I have some, so might install those down the road as well. I really appreciate you watching. If you have any questions about the install or anything about the Auxbeam 6-gang switch panel, put them down in the comment section below. I definitely love interacting with you guys and kind of building out this community on my channel. If you like the video and you want to see more like it, definitely hit the subscribe button to be notified when I put out a new video, and let me know I did a good job by hitting that like button below. In the description section of this video, you will find links to pretty much everything I can remember I used in this video, so you know, you can go over to Amazon, follow those links over to Amazon. I really appreciate it. Hey, if there's anything that interests you that I could be doing a video on, definitely throw that down in the comment section below. If you want to follow me over on Instagram, you can follow me there. I'm at Evergreen Overland, as well as I have evergreenoverland.com. Not super active on the .com yet, but I want to build that site out too. Definitely don't be afraid of this stuff. Just make sure you do your research. Go out and learn some new skills, research some of the wiring and all that kind of stuff. It really is pretty simple, but you know, you want to be safe, especially when it comes to wiring. So just make sure you've done your research and you know what you're doing when you're hooking up any sort of system like this and you're messing with the electrical in your vehicle. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.